All right. So we are all here to, learn about what actually psychotherapy is and what are the schools of thoughts in psychotherapy and what are the practical techniques that we can imply and apply in these process of psychotherapy. So I would definitely be talking about the theoretical and practical techniques also, but with my experience in this particular field for 12 years, I would also help you in understanding what is the practicality of these techniques, right? And how actually we can apply them, and sometimes, what could be the outcome that should be expected out of these techniques. Yeah. And we'll really keep it very interactive. Please share your experiences whenever you would want to, and whenever there is a question that pops up in your head, don't keep it for the end of the class. Just ask whenever you would want to. Yeah. Okay. So now let us understand that what actually psychotherapy is. Before we get into this, you tell me that, why does an individual go into a psychotherapy session or a counseling session? Why? What is the reason from the person's perspective that they begin a psychotherapy session or they begin a counseling session?
I think only when he have a problem in coping up with his own problems, or he couldn't find a solution, or when he is in a conflict between his own decisions, like he have 2 or 3 things to choose and many things going on, and when they are in a conflict and when they have a problem choosing the solution, they have difficulties within themselves.
Okay. So what I can understand here, Anita, you're saying that there are some kind of difficulties and conflict where a person is, so they tend to approach psychotherapy, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, like a psychologist in the first place.
Yeah, psychologist. All right. Or a mental health professional for a more broader term, right?
Yeah.
Any other reasons why do you think that a person approaches a mental health professional or thinks of going into a psychotherapy session or taking counseling sessions? Mr. Vimal, Pratiksha, I might be mispronouncing your name, Pratishka. Please, a lot of apologies because it's a difficult name.
Yeah,
Anyone can
can
share?
can I
Yes.
tell?
Sure, please.
Yeah, so might be they might be more.
Cameras on, please. Cameras on. Yes.
Yeah, so they might be more comfortable sharing it to a newer person so that they could get a better perspective or a new idea to come out through their problems or kind
Okay.
of solution, so that they can be more comfortable sharing it and not letting their friends or family know about it.
Okay. Lovely. Great. I think that's also one of our very valid reasons that we look for anonymity, right? We want someone anonymous to discuss our problems so then we can get like an outside perspective of our problems, right? Anything else, Mr. Vimal, that you would like to add to this? That why do you think a person gets into a session?
Seeing the problem from the third person's view, would be relative or else a good solution, will give a good
Okay.
solution. So the people
Okay.
are really looking out, even the family also, they just need a third person's view or intermediate person to solve the problem, because
Yes.
they are in the problematic issue, so
Yes.
problematic the situation.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
even the person from the outside, even in the family also, so they need the third person's view to give the solution.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's why they just
Yes.
want to approach these kind of therapies.
But I think I completely agree with your point of view also, that we want like an alternate perspective to our problems, right? Because sometimes the family or the group of people we are staying in, they start thinking and feeling in the same manner, and we can't like break out of that bubble, right? So somebody from the outside can give a very fresh and a newer perspective, right? So let's look at the reasons what I have listed. I feel that definitely, like how you people mentioned that, modifying, removing and retarding the existing symptoms, right? Whatever, whether it's depressed mood, whether it's anxiety, whether it's phobia, whether it's, some kind of decision making disabilities that we are facing, These are the problematic areas that an individual approaches to get help, right? Second is that sometimes it is largely understood that only when we are in problem, we need to approach someone to help us out, right? But not necessary. People nowadays are also seeking out psychotherapy or counseling to make their life better. It's not necessary that you have to have a problem to reach out to a mental health expert, right? It is not necessary that you have to face some kind of a disorder or some sort of psychological related symptoms to reach out a professional. People want to promote some positive personality, want to improve on their existing personality, and that is also one of the reasons of taking up psychotherapy, right? So this is a fairly new concept, which is people are really adopting it. Now let us imagine we take up these diets, right? You've heard about these keto and gluten-free, dairy-free, all these diets. So it's not necessary that a person has problem with nutrition, right? We tend to do it because we want to improve our existing health, right? If you do you all take care of your physical health, like go for a walk or something like that? Right?
Yeah.
And why do we do that? Is it to overcome an illness, or is it to take precautions?
It's the general self-care.
General self-care, right? So like how people are getting aware about their physical health, that without even an existing disease, they start taking care of themselves. They're becoming more aware of their mental health also. So to promote more positive mental health, then of course mediating disturbed patterns of behavior. Not necessary that you have been diagnosed clinically. There could be subclinical patterns where an individual has, and you want to change those patterns, right? So primarily these are the reasons why a person would approach psychotherapy and what actually a therapeutic relationship does. Now let us look at the purpose of psychotherapy. As we discussed, first is to remove the blocks to truth. Now, what actually happens in psychotherapy is that a person will come with certain set of values, certain set of truths, that I function in this way, I do these things in this manner, right? There is a set of truth what a person holds, but you have to remove those blocks because those are not the truths. Those are the beliefs. Those are the faulty beliefs an individual has. Now, let's say with depression, what do you think is the core belief or an existing belief a person has with depression? Somebody who's constantly thinking, okay, my life is not going well, my future is not going to be well, my relationships are failing. What do you think that person would be thinking about themselves?
Overthinking, it is actually that something is wrong or something is not right.
Yeah, yes, right. And they feel that this particular belief is the truth, right? They don't think that it is just one mechanism or just one possibility.
They
Maybe they
strongly,
start,
yeah,
sorry.
they strongly believe in it.
They strongly believe it and thinking that it is the truth and there is nothing other than that. So we have to remove the blocks. We have to make the person understand that that is your only belief system. There could be alternate ways of looking at the particular possibility, right? Now, next purpose of a psychotherapy is to begin to reconsider the spurious cause and effect relationships on which it rests. Now, usually what happens that people will have this sort of tendencies, not necessarily that because we have experience in this field, so we don't do this cause and effect mechanism, right? It could be that if I don't work well, if I don't put if I'm not busy all the time, I'm not doing well. So that mechanism of that particular hypothesis, that thinking that we create for ourselves, that we have to be constantly busy to put up our self-worth, right? Do you at your personal level have these sort of beliefs that if you don't do this, this doesn't happen, if I do this, this doesn't happen? Do you think even you have these sort of cause and effect relationships at your own personal level? Like, I'll tell you, my cause and effect relationship is with a lot of self exploration. What I have understood is that if I'm not working always, maybe I am not, doing well. Maybe I don't feel very good about myself. So that is a very faulty cause and effect relationship that I hold about myself. What do you think
Yes,
that?
I do have that kind of.
Yes, even
Yeah, I
that could
used to
be.
do that. Like I feel like on top of everything, whatever I do, I take care of the family, I take care of the home and everything. But still, when I don't work like professionally, or when I don't earn a little bit, it can be a little bit of money. It doesn't mean like it is going to support my whole family. But
Yeah.
still, even if I don't make a little bit, I mean, a very scarce amount it can be, but I have to make something. Otherwise, I feel very bad.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So this is, we all have these operational definitions for ourselves. Mr. Vimal, have you understood? Because I understand that you deal with a lot of clients where you are, actually mediating their environment, right? So if I don't have an east-facing property, my future and my life is doomed, right? So according to
Yeah, correct. There are a lot
Maslow,
of people, correct. There are a lot of
yeah,
people who speaks like that.
yeah. So
There are operational issues like that.
yes. So I believe like sometimes we operate so heavily on it that, we are blinded by these cause and effect relationships, right? So we have to make the person understand these superficial cause and effect relationships that a person has established for themselves. We have to make them realize that there could be different ways of functioning also. Are you fairly clear on this second point? Like, am I able to,
Yes.
yeah? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, anything that you would want to share uh, I'm sure you must have seen a couple of clients. Have you seen like in your journey of psychology and understanding and learning psychology, have you seen clients like taken sessions with them, counseling sessions or anything?
No.
Any? No,
No, no,
not
no.
as of.
Totally
Okay.
new.
But in the context of layman counseling that you have done, right?
Yes, yes, with friends
Yeah.
and family, that
Okay.
kind of support is what we're saying. I don't
Yeah.
even know if that was counseling, but that was just a support, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. All right. All right. Understood. Now, the third most important purpose of psychotherapy is to restore awareness, the ability to make his own decisions. Now, sometimes this happens a lot of times in neurotic conditions, neurotic conditions meaning anxiety, depression, OCD, phobia, where you feel that helplessness, that everything is beyond your control, everything is happening because that has happened and that is why you are in that position, right? So now you have to understand that, make that person believe that she has that capacity to make the decision. And sometimes it happens so much that the person is always focusing on the things that they cannot control, right? So bringing the awareness back to the things that a person can control. Suppose a person has a failing marriage, right? So they tend to control, or they tend to focus on the things which are not in their control. He should have understood me better. He should have told me about these things. Now that person's reactions and actions are not in your control, right? What is in your control? To express how you feel, to express what behaviors are affecting you. So increasing that repertoire of awareness, that what are the things that are in the person's control and how they can make a decision. All right. So this is also one of the prime focus of psychotherapy. And the fourth is willing to reverse his thinking and to understand that what thought projected and its effect on him. Now, this usually happens with, again, depression, anxiety, is that self-fulfilling prophecy. You actually manifest what continuously keep thinking. Suppose if I keep thinking that I am a worthless person, or nobody likes me, or I will be, an unsuccessful person. Now, any kind of thing that happens in your life, you tend to take that in a very magnified manner and believe that, yes, see, I am a worthless person. That is why this is happening to me. So it actually, you have to start helping the client that, you have to reverse this thinking. You have to make much more healthier conclusions about yourself, right? It is not that from a negative thinking, you can change a person's thinking to positive. That is not really possible. But at least you can make neutral, if he's thinking that he's worthless, you can't change and completely make him feel that he's the most efficient person in the world. You can't make that drastic shift. But what you can do is, he is making, yes, I am making my effort, I am trying, you can make that shift, right? So these are the core purposes of psychotherapy. Can you tell me that, other than this, what do you think a psychotherapy session or counseling does to an individual, other than these uh, areas what I have listed? Anything else?
Giving
Because
them some hope.
yes,
Yes,
definitely.
some hope.
Definitely.
I mean, to look forward for what next, because when they don't have, I mean, when something else that they were going through is not working out,
Yeah.
maybe we can just make them feel that there is hope and there is some other thing which would be right, and look forward for what next.
Yes,
And also
definitely.
maybe some habitual changes.
Hmm.
uh, every time, even when we have a haircut, it gives us a refreshment. Those
Yes,
kind of
definitely.
habitual changes and refreshment can just make them feel better.
Yeah. I think these are very valid points, Anita, that, providing hope.
Yeah.
Again, that uh, somewhere covers in the aspect of reversing thinking, right?
Yeah.
Where you feel that, okay, everything is hopeless and there's nothing. And then when you say, like, doing these small strategies where you can actually feel very positive about your life, that is also very cause and effect relationship. Now, it should not be, now, some people, what I have seen is, like, suppose they are into content writing or they are creative artists, they say that until and unless I don't smoke, I cannot, work on my material. Until and unless I don't have a peg of my drink, I cannot work on the material, right? So sometimes these sort of a relationship, like, okay, it's good if it's helping an individual, right? Like, okay, let me get a haircut and I'll feel um, happy and I'll feel positive. But it should not be totally dependent on such actions, right? It should be more intrinsic. It should be that I I am in more control of how I feel rather than what things are happening to me from the outside, right? Thank you, Anita, for that contribution. Anything else that anyone else feels that, could be, other than these reasons, could be the purpose of psychotherapy also?
Psychotherapy would really help the corporate people, to change their mindset and to set the goals. And because in corporates, I have seen a lot of people giving the counseling in a different way. Because in a lot of corporates, the people
Yes,
who have come and changed their mindsets to achieve their goals from zero to somewhere.
yes,
Because
yes,
what to see and what not to see is more important. Because what to see is okay, but what not to see is more important. So that's where
yes.
psychotherapy, I've seen the people who have given this and changed their mindset.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Vimal, I completely agree. I think corporate sector is extremely evolving right now in terms of, adopting psychotherapeutic measures and understanding the work culture and how the work culture is affecting each and every employee. So it is extremely, extremely important. And they are understanding the importance of a positive environment, right? So I think that this is
True.
also fairly positive point in adding to these 4 points, right? So now next we'll move on to the process of psychotherapy. Now, what usually happens in the process of psychotherapy, that there is a person who comes for a session. This person has certain set of, their own agendas, their own rules, their own beliefs, their own morals, values, everything, right? Now this person comes into a session and they want that, everything, every problem in their life should be solved without them changing. This is what usually a person comes with. This is usually the approach a person has. Now they don't want that this person should change, but they want that the problem should just vanish away somehow, right? So what we actually have to understand and help the person understand, that there has to be change in themselves, and there has to be a creation of a newer version so that these problems would reduce, right? It cannot be possible that there is no change in an individual and everything else goes away, right? So you have to understand here that psychotherapy is a process that changes the view of the self. That is the most important aspect of psychotherapy. Now, at the best, this new self is has a more beneficent self-concept, but psychotherapy can hardly be expected to establish reality. Now, you cannot really 100% establish reality for that individual, because we all, again, reality is a myth, right? What is real for me could be not real for you, could be, just maybe just a normal belief for you, right?
Important.
Yes, not important, exactly. So we have to understand that uh, we use this term a lot, that make the person in touch with the reality. This is not what is happening, and ask the person to get in touch with the reality. That's somewhere a very conflicting definition and a conflicting statement to say, because we as individuals don't know what real is, right? We can only survive on conclusions and only survive on assumptions that is making us feel better and improving our lives. Now, whether those, yes.
I have it. Is reality not important? Which I mean to say is reality and the social society is different.
See,
Practicality, reality, because
now the,
we do have certain personal things for ourselves,
yeah,
but we don't do it because it is not actually rational.
yeah, yeah.
It is not actually, the society doesn't accept it. And reality is something that we mean practical. Am I right? Like practicality and reality, are they same?
See, again, now defining reality, we'll get into a very philosophical mode. So let us understand that reality is something very tangible, right? Very tangible. Now, I'm sitting in front of you, and I know Mr. Vimal is there, and I can see Anita, and there is this environment in front of you, front of us, right? So now this is a form of reality which is very tangible, right? Which we can see, observe, understand, and can be, cross-checked with each other.
Happening.
Now,
Yeah.
there is another form of realism which is imagined for us. Now, let's say if there is a lizard in front of me, for me, it's a real threat. For me, I am personally very scared of lizards. I will get I will get a panic attack if I see lizards. So that is my reality for me. Now, for you, maybe it's just another household animal,
Don't mind it at
household,
all. I don't look
right?
for a lizard at all because I'm not afraid of it. It is very
You're not,
simple.
you're not, right? So now for you, you are not perceiving that particular aspect as threatening. You're not perceiving as that particular aspect, that particular stimulus as something that can harm you. But for me, that's my reality, right? Now,
Okay.
we cannot actually, you cannot change that reality for me. You cannot take away the lizard, but you can help me have an altered view of reality, that maybe it's not such a big threat. Maybe it's not, actually doing anything to you. Not necessary that a person should have any kind of negative experiences. It's not that I've had any negative experience with that particular reptile, right? But I have formed that belief over the years. So here, reality first is a very tangible reality, and second is an intangible reality that is personal to everyone. Now we have to work on those levels of reality that is helping us grow, helping us achieve our. Are you aware of that Maslow's triangle? Everybody is aware of that Maslow's triangle. The basic needs, the self-esteem needs, the
Yeah.
psychological needs,
Yes,
and first,
Okay.
hierarchy.
yes,
Hierarchy.
yes. So the first, we are all attaining, trying to become better individuals in that triangle, right? So
Yes.
ultimately, we are all wanting to become self-actualized, where we are, satisfied, content with our life, with our what is happening around us, right? So that reality should be in sync with those expectations. Okay. Am I able to answer your question, Anita?
Yes. Yes.
Somewhere
Yes.
close to,
Yes.
yeah?
Yeah.
So, with the societal expectations, again, it could be not very rational for the society, but maybe if you have your conclusions, if you have your reasons, that can seem rational to you, right?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So now what actually is the process is again developing a new self. Now this new self would have newer values, newer beliefs, and a much more better definition of themselves, right? Now, in the process of psychotherapy, the patient hopes to learn how to get the change he wants without changing his self concept to any significant extent. Now we are all in our comfort zone set, right? We don't want to change our thinking, we don't want to change our patterns, and we still want that the life should keep improving. So through psychotherapy, they want that there should be a little change in me, but my life should get better, right? So this is what we have to help him understand, that there has to be change from both the sides equally. Second is the therapist as well as the patient may cherish false self concepts, but their respective perceptions of improvement still must differ. Now, maybe an individual walks into your office saying that, I want to I want to get better in my relationship, right? Now, that is his goal. But as the process, you understand that the goal of this particular session is that this person has, irrespective in all the domains of his life, has problems in communication. So my goal becomes that he should improve in his social skills, he should improve in his communication value, but he comes with one rigid goal, right? That his partner,
Relationship.
his relationship should improve with his partner, right? So the goals will vary. So you have to understand that there could be conflicting goals in the initial process of psychotherapy, but gradually you can collaborate on much more mutual goals. Okay. Then the third is the whole equilibrium rests on insane belief that this is possible. Okay. At the beginning, then the patient's goal and the therapist are at variance. Now patient comes with some sort of unrealistic, or a client, let's use the word client, comes with a much more unrealistic view that everything will be sorted out with counseling. Now you must have seen, if you even counseled as a layman, they are all looking for
Yes.
solutions, that tell us something, that how do I get better. Even Mr. Vimal, even I feel that your clients also would be constantly looking for some sort of solutions, that tell us something, what can I do with my environment that my problems are sorted, right?
True,
So
true, true.
Yes.
everybody comes with always looking for solutions, right? So we have to understand that in the beginning there are no instant solutions. You cannot really provide them some instant solutions. So it, that belief is insane, that something that therapist is going to tell me and my life is going to change. So you have to make them aware that it's a process, and there will be that balance will be achieved in emotions gradually. Okay. Then the third point is that their aim is to be able to retain their self concept exactly as it is, but without the suffering that it entails, right? As we were speaking, they all want the problem to go away, but they don't want themselves to change, right? So we have to make them aware that you have to change at the personal level for the problems and the situations to look different to you, because it's all about how you perceive a situation, right? Then, on the contrary, such concepts mean little to them, or they would not need help. Now, when you if you have a very confrontational style of counseling, sometimes some people just tell us, no, that you are not telling what you need. Suppose somebody is coming to you and saying that I'm experiencing problems in my relationship, so we can tell them very outrightly that you're not telling what you need, or you're not doing this. So that can seem very difficult for some people. So we don't tend to do that in psychotherapy session. Okay. Then next is, patients do not
Ma'am, I have a
enter.
doubt.
Yes, please.
Okay. Do we have a pattern that this is the 1,000 patterns of human behavior or human mannerisms, and this is the solution? Is there any case study that if a client is sitting in front of you by holding their hands, that you will come to understand that this is the thought pattern which is going in his mind. So he
Hmm.
might be looking this kind of solution, or he might be this sort of problem is going in his mind. So this is
Hmm.
the pattern which he set. So this is the solution which we have to give. So is there any kind of a case study or pattern which we have?
Mr. Vimal, are you only talking about the non-verbal cues?
No, no, everything. No, case studies also, even the proper case studies also, like
See, we
therapies.
Yeah, so we will be discussing about some case studies as we go forward with,
Okay,
understanding every school of thought, right? What sort of questions are we supposed to ask, and what sort of conclusions are we supposed to make? Now, what we are speaking in this particular class is what is generally expected out of psychotherapy. Now, there are
okay,
different approaches to psychotherapy, right? There is person-centered approach, there is psychoanalytic approach, there is behavioral approach. So using that approach, how do you understand an individual? How do you make conclusions, right? Like, I'll give you a very brief example. Let's say psychoanalysis. In that, we do dream interpretation. So we tend to ask a person to write down their dreams and then conclude certain, conflicts that a person would be undergoing because of their dreams, right? So there is symbolism used. Okay, so we'll
okay.
briefly touch upon these. And if you're specifically talking about non-verbal cues, even that is actually, that's not a part of a psychotherapy. That's a skill that you learn over time being a mental health professional. You understand that the person is being guarded. You understand certain cues that are given, right, through the non-verbal language. So how much if a person is saying that, yeah, it is very nice for me, and nodding the head this way means it wasn't very nice for them. Okay. So these are
Sure.
certain cues that you tend to learn. So uh, n- understanding the non-verbal communication is a completely different aspect, but if you want, then we can definitely touch upon that too. Okay.
If you have any book, do refer. It will be
Yes,
great to
I will definitely suggest you. I will personally let you know the books that you can read to understand the non-verbal cues of an individual and untap their behavior onto it. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
all right. The next process of psychotherapy is patients do not enter the psychotherapeutic relationship with their mind. Now, psychotherapeutic relationship is something which is very important and the crux of psychotherapy, right? So they don't come with an intention that, I will form a relationship with my psychotherapist, with my expert, or with my counselor. And there are different processes also, which we'll see in the later units, that what happens actually in a psychotherapy, right? So they don't come with that mindset. They come, this is my problem, I need an instant solution, I don't want to change myself, how can the problem disappear, right? Then last is, if it can make way for reality, it has achieved its ultimate success. Now, through this entire process, if you can help the person attain what is reality for that individual and how it can benefit that individual, that is your ultimate success of psychotherapy. Okay. Now let us understand the differences between psychotherapy and counseling. Are you aware of how these two terms are used differently? Can I get your response and understand, rather than, me telling you? Can you tell me, what do you think, what is counseling and what is psychotherapy? Let me change the slide. Yes.
Counseling is, the way we see the people and give the solution by, hearing their problems.
Okay. And
And
psychotherapy?
psychotherapy is a therapy that which we apply by, learning something or practicing something. Because therapy is not by giving by a view.
Hmm.
Counseling can
Okay.
be given, but therapy cannot be given by seeing a person. It's a totally a different perspective. Both are different.
All right, all right. So what I can understand, that there is some kind of a view or some kind of a theory that you're following with psychotherapy, and counseling can be more general in nature, right?
Correct.
Okay. Anyone else who would like to contribute to this, that what could be the difference between counseling and psychotherapy?
I would like to say, like, counseling is like making them feel better. Yeah, that is fine. And it is through talking. And when we consult and discuss, maybe if we find out that they need some change, like behavioral change, or it might be some mental attitude change, or their thought process change, and that is when they might be in need of a therapy, a special kind of therapy, like how you said, like when a person comes for a relationship problem, like when we discuss with them, and when we, like, on our part of counseling, we find out that there is a communication problem, then we focus on the communication, so we find out the root cause of the problem actually. So when there is a cause, like when exactly we could point out the cause, and maybe at that moment they might need a therapy to solve the cause and to
All right.
recover themselves.
Okay. Okay. So what I'm understanding here, Anita, is that it could be a general problem for an individual, but when we go to the root of the problem and then start treating that, it becomes psychotherapy, right? Am I
Yeah,
able to
because
understand it?
I'm not sure, but I'll just let you know like what I feel, and you can very well
Yes.
please
Yes.
correct me. I feel
All
like so every counseling, whomever comes for counseling might not need a psychotherapy, is what I feel.
yes.
Yes,
Okay. Understood. Understood. Fine. I got your point. We'll see how close were you in
yes, please.
understanding these
Yes,
differences.
sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Pratishka, Rashi, would you want to contribute to this? Are you there, Pratishka, Rashi?
Ma'am, I have a doubt.
Yes,
So,
please.
yeah, I think earlier I was in
Rashi, you've to unmute yourself. Yes.
is it okay now? I don't know
Yes,
about the
yes.
internet.
I don't know why am I getting a very low volume. Could you just speak a little bit?
Uh,
Yeah.
Even I'm not sure why is that happening because
Yes,
I am
voice is
attending
so
this
low, but
class.
we really wanted to hear you because wanted to know what doubt you're going to ask. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Am I
Please tell
audible
me.
now?
I'm
Is it
going
Yes,
to
you're
clear?
move
louder.
closer. I'm
Louder.
going to move closer to my speaker.
Oh
Yes,
my
tell
God,
me.
even I am. So I just wanted to ask the one point you mentioned about confrontation, that
Yes.
we have to be careful about being a confrontational psychologist or a
Yes.
counselor. Could
Yes.
you just please elaborate a little more on it? Because what I feel or what I think from the cases that I have seen or from my college time, that at times it gets very important to show them the mirror, but obviously in a professional way, to
Yes.
tell them
Yes.
that there are certain toxic traits or cognitive distortions. So how do we do that? If
Yes.
later on we're going to cover it, that's also okay.
Yes, Rashi, we are speaking in the process of psychotherapy in the beginning. Like, suppose if a person comes to you
Right.
for the first
Okay.
intake session and you tell them that, it's your beliefs are wrong, your thinking patterns are wrong. They don't want their self-concept to be targeted. They don't want to listen in the first session that whatever you are thinking or believing is all distorted. So
Right.
that is
Right.
what I'm saying. This form of a confrontation doesn't really help the therapeutic process, doesn't really help in maintaining that therapeutic alliance. Now, even what my approach is, that my therapeutic approach is more of CBT and eclectic. Okay. So what I usually do by the third or the fourth session, first two sessions, I'll be having a pen and a paper and a diary. Okay. But from the third session, I give it to my clients. Now they have to understand that what could be the possible reasons. Now that brings in the process of understanding the cognitive distortions also, or any kind of difficulties that where they could be the toxic person, right? Because the moment you
All
tell
right.
them, yeah. So the moment you tell them, you are no one less than the people who are around them. Even the family is telling them that तुम्हारे में गलती है, you are at fault, you are not doing it. Why are you, constantly having thinking this negative things about your life, or Why are you always the one pulling fight? So the people are already confronting them. Now you have to be the professional. You have that professional training. You have to
Right.
understand that how do I make the person speak that particular thing, that yes, maybe I'm inclining more towards, overgeneralization, magnification, all these cognitive distortions, right? So that's how my approach is. I am a very non-directive counselor, but for some counselors, for some psychotherapists, it can work. Some people are very comfortable in a directive approach where they want that, okay, fine, tell me what is the problem with me. I have seen clients who will come and tell me in the first session, okay, this is my entire problem. They'll open their Pandora's box and tell me, where am I wrong? Now tell me, where am I wrong? They will instigate you to tell you that, okay, tell me, where am I wrong? But you don't have to do it in the initial 3 sessions, I would suggest. Maybe by the third session, you can start the process of confrontation, but not again directly tell them, okay, this is the faulty thinking.
All right.
This is the problem. So we'll talk about it in the CBT. And
But I understood it better now. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for addressing this.
Yes,
all
even I understood that. Yes, that was a nice question, and Noreen, you actually explained it well. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So now I think we lost some people in the process, right? Okay, okay. Fine. So let us understand that what is the difference between counseling and psychotherapy. Now, usually counseling is a very short-term process. It can last up to, 3 to 4 sessions only. But psychotherapy is a longer process. It takes around 18 to 14 to 24 sessions, right? So counseling can be very, very brief and psychotherapy is longer. Second is support the patient to perform day-to-day activities in a normal and efficient manner. It could be very small issues that a person comes to you. It could be that, I feel angry all the time. So now that could be a focus of a counseling session. But someone says that, they really explode whenever they are angry. They really, damage a lot of relationships and things around them. So now that becomes a disorder which requires psychotherapy, right? So to uncover the foundations of problem and address it in a more efficient way. Okay. So you have to understand that counseling, the problems are milder, and with psychotherapy, the problems are much more deeper, much more clinical in nature, and are affecting an individual's functioning in a greater way. Okay. Uh, okay. That's Vimal who messaged. Okay. Now, the third is address issues in a less in-depth manner. Now, with counseling, maybe you would focus on the problem and then try to uncover what are the possible solutions. But with psychotherapy, we address the issues in a more deeper manner, like go into the root cause, go into understanding what could be the childhood experiences and uncovering and untapping those. Okay. Now, fourth is dealing with patients who are fit enough to listen internally and find solutions to the problems by themselves. Here, there is less of hand holding. Okay, but in psychotherapy, maybe you have to handhold the person from the childhood trauma till now. All right. So here it is more intensive. The person actually starts depending a lot on you in psychotherapeutic process because it's a long association, and the psychotherapist, you try to gain a lot of control over the person. Even this minutest decisions, they will start calling you and asking you that, can I do that? Should I do that? Should I go for that party? Should I not go for that party? So you actually become that source of decision maker for that individual's life, right? So there's a lot of dependability happening in the process of psychotherapy. Okay. So these are the major differences between counseling and psychotherapy. All right. Okay. So now let's understand that what are the reasons which we've majorly discussed in the beginning, that what are the reasons people come for counseling and psychotherapy. Now, first is, of course, support. Yes. Yes, please. Yes, Ani.
Actually, you just told me, like in the beginning when we just started the class, there was, a point which you mentioned where there shouldn't be dependency, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
does this not become a dependency for the for the case, like for the client, whomever
Definitely.
comes, like taking more instructions and depending on the counselor for more decision making?
It
Because
does.
we're
It does.
trying to make them independent, we were trying to make them like choose their own things and to
Hmm.
believe in themselves. And
Yes.
when they follow for everything, and when they need a help for everything, when they seek us for any decisions to make in their daily activities,
Hmm.
would that not be a dependency? Like, how do we
Yes. It
overcome
it
that?
definitely creates dependability in the initial phase, Anita. In the initial and in the middle phase, the client is really dependent on you, and sometimes they even associate their satisfaction, well-being, or progress in their life through you. They say it is because of you. Then when you're in the process of the termination phase, it is very important to make the person believe that, okay, whatever decisions they are making, whatever changes they are doing in their life is through them. You have been a more of a you have acted more as a facilitator. So that's why the termination process is very, very important. Sometimes it can backfire in a very bad way if the person is very dependent and you say, okay, fine, now you're good to go. Now lead your life and I'm not available anymore. Now that can do more damage to an
Yeah.
individual than the particular condition what he had come to you for, right? So the termination phase, what I believe, is more important than the intake and the middle phase. So there are three phases to counseling, which we'll talk about it in the later classes. So that is very important because there you are reinstalling the belief in the individual. You're letting go of that hand.
Yeah.
So that happens. I'm not saying that dependability will not happen. It will happen, but you have to now train the individual by certain small exercises, by making them aware that, look, you made this decision, you made this choice, right? So that process is equally important,
So we should
right?
make sure that they believe in themselves, and we should always
Yes.
insist, and we should be
Yes.
cautious about mentioning that it was their decision which was made and it
Yes.
was not ours.
Yes, yes. I'll share my experience when I was a budding psychologist in my earlier years. I used to feel very rewarded when a person used to say, it's because of you,
Yeah.
I am now not, I'm, overcoming my social anxiety, or I'm overcoming my. So I would just be in that phase and not go into the termination, because even I somewhere felt like it's nice to hear these things, right? But then I gradually realized that, it's equally important to let go of that dependability
Yes.
also. So
Yes.
as you're evolving as a psychologist or as a mental health professional, you have to understand of these sort of traits in yourself also. You have to let go of that feeling, because of course the moment the person
Yeah.
starts
Because
taking credit that, okay, I am the one, you also feel a little bit hurt, right? But you know that that is a process. So it's a lot of self evaluation, self evolution, self development also. So yes, so we'll get into now the other part, that I think this we have fairly discussed, that why do people come for counseling and psychotherapy. Now first is definitely support. Now in this form of supportive therapy, it is not necessary that you utilize any kind of theoretical skills. Sometimes people just want to be heard, just want someone to be there, and you have to provide them a lot of positive regard, a lot of motivation, and a lot of encouragement, right? So this is a form of supportive therapy. This usually happens, let's say, when there has been some sort of grief, when there has been some sort of loss. Okay, so in the initial phase, you have to do a lot of supportive work. So in that, the client may primarily need benefit uh, from, like, strengthening the ego, like whatever they are experiencing. Are you aware of the id, ego, and the superego concept? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, okay. So
Yes.
here in this, we are mostly facilitating the person's ego, okay? Not the ego that we usually use in the colloquial language, but the psychological ego, all right? So here we have to just support that, make the person feel that, he or she is being heard, and you don't actually try to challenge what they're thinking or challenge what they're feeling, all right? And some may need long-term supportive therapy while others require short-term supportive therapy. So this is mostly in the form of grief. Now grief could be the result of any kind of loss, a job loss, a person loss, or any kind of relationship loss, any kind of loss, all right? So support may be in the form of warm, non-judgmental listening and encouragement. And although most therapy does not become advocacy, right, you're not challenging each other's belief, you're not trying to show them a different perspective of how they're thinking. It could be just you are listening to them, you're understanding what they're going through, and providing a lot of positive regard, meaning providing a lot of support, however you can, like, I am here for you, I'm here to hear you out, things like that, all right? And on occasion of supportive therapy or counseling may also lean in this direction. Now, it is not necessary that you purely take a supportive counseling session. Sometimes it can be a mix of, supportive counseling. Sometimes there is, like, some psychoeducation that you're doing. So it's not so theoretical. Like, you have to understand, when a client walks into your office and, let's say a person has just faced a very dramatic job loss, right? There has been layoff in the company and he's lost his job. So there could be some element of support, there could be some element of psychoeducation, there could be some element of CBT. So you have to see that there is a process, right? Now, other reasons are again psychoeducational guidance. Now, this could be in the form of, like, like how you see these life skills classes, social skills training, assertiveness training, relaxation training. So you want to improve on some area in your life. So that becomes a psychoeducational guidance. So people tend to come for that also. So a wide range of psychologically informed practices is to be found under this umbrella, like how I mentioned: relaxation training, marriage enrichment programs, not marriage counseling. Now, marriage counseling does not fall into psychoeducation, right? Positive parent management trainings and relapse prevention programs, stress inoculation programs, emotional intelligence programs, positive psychology training. So these are all examples of the skills that a person can improve on. Okay, it's not there is some kind of a distress or some kind of a dysfunction happening. You're already functioning at a normal level, but you want to improve upon certain things. So this is also one of the paradigm for counseling and psychotherapy. Now, next is crisis intervention and management. Now, this happens when there is some sort of a crisis, whether it's a natural crisis, like how right now we all face the pandemic, right? So that time there was a lot of crisis intervention and management happening. So it could be aftermath of any kind of an occurrence. Okay. So in this form of counseling, you provide a very sensitive approach in understanding their issues. Okay. And then again, it's non-intrusive. It's psychologically strengthening help the first instance, avoiding connotations of psychopathology. Here, you are not diagnosing an individual. You are not saying someone who's come, let's say, after, let's say a person has experienced um, a situation where they have seen a plane crash, okay, and the person is telling their experiences to you. So you don't start providing some kind, you don't start formulating a psychopathology for them, that it is depression, it is anxiety. These are normal responses after any kind of crisis. The shock, the numbness, or any kind of expression a person is displacing, these are normal reactions. So you don't have to put them in under a particular psychopathology. Okay. Next is definitely problem solving and decision making. Now, this happens in all sorts of areas of a person who approaches psychotherapy, whether it's a person who's come for symptom elevation, whether a person who's come for some kind of improvement. Problem solving and decision making constantly happens in psychotherapy. So here, your aim is to facilitate exploration of issues, understanding what is causing the indecisiveness, then looking at the feelings and practicalities, available options, and addressing the anxiety and loss that they could be feeling in making and not making a certain decision. So a lot of philosophical concepts are also used. A lot of existentialism is also used when you're, helping a person make a decision to a particular problem. Next is, of course, symptom betterment. A person facing any kind of depression issues, anxiety issues, procrastination issues, anger issues, they also come to you, approach you for making betterment in their symptoms or elevating the symptoms completely. All right. Then there is insight and understanding. Now, this happens usually, they want to understand that why this has happened to me, why my life is like this, why am I like this. Now, through the process of whatever school of thought you utilize in this, they come to a realization, there's this aha moment, and they come to a realization, okay, this is the reason this is happening to me. This is the reason, my life is like this. So there is an whether that could be understanding of their own behavior, whether that comes through an understanding of their own circumstances, through their own personality traits, through their own reactions, right? So this is also one of the important components of psychotherapy in all the clients that you would be seeing, right? So this is also very important to include in the process of psychotherapy. So the goal of the therapy may be attainment of deeper and deeper insights in the states of continuous understanding of self and how conflicts arise and motivation. So let's take an example of anger. So here, suppose a person feels that, every time someone says that, you are not good at this, you're not good at this, it makes me very angry. So what do you think that, would be the process, and what do you think would be a realization that a person understands that, okay, this is why I'm getting angry? Did you get my question here?
Maybe because the person is more concerned about what others think about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and he doesn't have acceptance.
Yes. Yes.
And he had a thought of like he always wanted to be perfect,
Yeah.
flawless.
Yes. And yes, definitely. So there are certain self-beliefs and
Yes.
certain beliefs that what others are thinking about them.
Yeah,
So
when there is
every
a
time,
difference between the opinions, maybe his opinion, I mean, any person, he have his own opinion about himself. And when it is different, when others say, I mean, there's a conflict. Maybe
yes,
that might be a reason.
definitely. So
Yeah.
now understanding that particular aspect, that, maybe I am taking everything as a personal attack because I believe this about myself and others believe, is an insight creation, is understanding of self. Okay. So similarly, you have to try to do that for a lot of other symptoms that an individual would be facing. All right. Next is definitely self-actualization. Now, not like how I think Rashi, you mentioned, right, that you've selected this particular
Yes,
field to understand more about yourself and, to gain more awareness
absolutely.
about
Right.
how you function. So this could also be the reason for people coming to you, right? To understand that how can they function more at their prime potential, because whatever they are functioning right now could be a result of a lot of distress also that they're facing along the way. But if
True.
they're able to handle that very efficiently, we know that we can function at our full potential. Okay. So it could be here, the goals could be like, I want to be more assertive, risk taking, more happy, right? I want to try out everything in life has to offer. I want to overcome all obstacles in my life and find the real me. So this is the process of self actualization that usually people might come. Now this brings in a lot of, you actually mature with the person. So this in this kind of clients that you would witness, you will see that a lot of their own beliefs. And this goal of therapy is a very two-directional goal. I have learned so many things about myself with the clients who are actually self-actualizing, right? Yes. Hello, Zainab.
Oh,
You joined
hi,
pretty.
hello.
You joined very, very late.
Yeah, I know I got like confused with the time. I thought it was at night, and then I saw the message like very late. So I hope so. It said it's being recorded, so I think I'll just watch the recordings.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
We just had a small activity in the beginning of the class. I want you to
yeah.
introduce yourself and
Uh-huh.
tell us in which part of the world you are, and tell us the
Mhm.
three reasons why you have selected psychology.
Okay, so my name is Zainab. I'm 25 years old. I'm living in Bamako. It's like a country in West Africa.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason I'm doing psychology is I had like psychological problems, and when I found the solution, so I think like people shouldn't go through this kind of stuff in case like we can have solutions, we can help them. So it's not worth living like a bad life when you can really have solution to it. So
Yes.
that's like the main reason we can say. And I really love helping people. And I think like the fastest way for me is by psychology. And I'm really interested in generally like knowing why people do what they do and how they feel about it. So I'm really excited about psychology in general. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So you've joined at the very right moment. We're talking about self-actualization. Why people
Aha.
come for counseling and psychotherapy. So I think it's the universe telling you that you will be improving with psychotherapy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That
All
would
right.
be great.
Okay. All right. So here we were just discussing about what are the reasons for people coming to counseling and psychotherapy. So one of it is
Yeah.
self-actualization. All right. So
Uh-huh.
here definitely there's a lot of self-awareness that happens through the process of psychotherapy. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, Zainab, I would really request you to mute yourself. And if you have any
Yeah,
questions,
sure.
you can raise your hand. All right.
Of course. Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Zainab. Yes. So this process actually involves in helping a person become more true towards themselves and more true towards what they have always wanted to be. All right. And definitely there are a lot of systemic, organizational, and social changes we all go through. There are marriages happening, there are divorces happening, there is a job loss, job gain, promotions. So these are all systemic changes that happens, and social changes. So we need to navigate through these changes very efficiently. So sometimes when you're not able to navigate through these changes, people tend to come for counseling or psychotherapies. So it could be, in terms of any kind of domestic partnerships, families, children, where you're facing these challenges, or also experimentation with group counselings, where people have come out from a particular change in their life. These could be people who've been addicted to certain substances, these groups, or people who've been through certain disorders like OCD, GAD, and you help all these people. They come together and then understand that what are the reasons that has helped them overcome these challenges. All right. So these clients may change their goals over time, because of course when there is an understanding that, okay, I'm going through the change and what are these expectations, so this actually the goals keep changing over time, and the therapy and the goals are often always reassigned, negotiated, collaborated. It is not that if you've set 3 goals in the beginning of the session, you continue that for the entire 14 sessions, right? So that change keeps happening. And it is also here you have seen that a client will definitely feel more satisfied if the goals are in sync with what their expectations are. So of course there could be like a primary goal, and there can be shadow goals also. Certain goals that you feel are much more important for an individual, those can contribute as shadow goals. So these are certain areas and certain reasons why people come for counseling and psychotherapy, you also have to understand that sometimes certain clients are very comfortable in being in the sick role, right? So how you would navigate that particular role and help them understand that they have now become a much more functional and an individual being. So that also requires a lot of this systemic change within themselves is also one of the reasons that an individual would approach you for psychotherapy or counseling. Now, let us all take a small break before we get into the end part of the session. This is a small mental activity that I like to do. It actually really energizes our brain. I know it's been like a long session and we are all like now, slugging a little bit. So let's do a small activity. Can I have all cameras on, please? Let's take a brain break. I usually call it a brain break. Zainab, you must be already fresh. You don't need the break, I guess, because you joined very late.
No, Noreen. Honestly saying, am I allowed to call you Noreen with your first
Yes,
name?
please. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It doesn't, like, we are not slothing. I mean, session seems to be very interesting.
Thank
Actually,
Yes.
I agree with her. Session is interesting. I'm
Yeah.
not at all slogging or sleeping.
Not so hugging. I'm not.
Yeah, it's
I
quite
didn't even
interesting
realize
and
the time. Only when you
informative.
said, I saw the time.
Okay, all right. It's really motivating for me. And let's still take a brain break. All right, it's a simple activity where
For
you have
sure.
to just change your hands. Let us see if you can do that. Can you do that comfortably, or you're getting confused? Five
It's
seconds.
going fine for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now when we do this, it actually activates our right hemisphere and left hemisphere both. So it's a good mental break that whenever you're feeling like, lack on energy, or, you're like tired, just try to do that. All right. Okay. And now this other activity, I want you to fold your hands. All of you fold your hands. Okay. Now reverse.
That's weird. Okay, so
But
yeah.
it's actually relaxing.
Now again reverse. So now, see, this is a very good example that I use with my clients. I tell them, now this is you've come with your, thoughts, and you've come with your beliefs, and this is how you are. Now we are going to do the other way. So there's some sort of an hesitation, right? It's not as comforting. You don't really do it very quickly. So that's the
Yeah.
process. That's the process of counseling. So they understand, yeah, we can do it. There'll be a little hesitation, but there's a way to go, have a different way also. All right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so try to implement like these very experiential examples with the client, so they'll understand that what is expected out of psychotherapy. So are we a little bit energized or still sleepy?
No, not at all. Not at all.
All right.
All
All
are
right.
good.
Okay, so now let's understand that what is the educational background that we need to have to become a psychologist or a clinical psychologist. Now, this is from the Indian context that I'll be talking, Zainab, because this is the qualification that we require in India. All right. The first is keeping psychology in your +2. Yeah. Okay. So this is keeping psychology in your +2. So usually you have a selection to make. Just let me know if anyone has had a different educational background. So it'll help me build my knowledge set also. Yes.
I'm basically an engineer.
Okay. All right. So you didn't have psychology in your +2.
Yeah. But then I did my psychology, MSc in psychology recently.
Okay.
But it wasn't, it was very general and it was through distance. So it
All
is
right.
not like Yeah, it's very interactive or much into learning, but I do have a background. But my
Okay.
major is like part of my lifetime. For the whole of my life, I was an engineer. So
All
only
right.
for the past 2 or 3 years, I'm into psychology.
Okay, okay. So ideally, it's if you want to, have like a professional degree in psychology, it's always better to have psychology in your +2. Okay, and here we have the combination of psychology. It's also offered with science also. So you can have it as an option in your science if you've selected science in your +2. Okay. And usually people feel that you have to have science if you are doing clinical psychology, but that's not the thing. You can have humanities and then also do your specialization in clinical psychology. Then after that, in graduation, of course, you have to do like a BA honors where, psychology is your subject, or you do honors in applied psychology. So your bachelor's, your graduation also has to be in psychology. Then next is that, your post graduation. So now your master's, you have to do a specialization in psychology, whether that is clinical, organizational, or counseling. Now my degree, because I did it from Bangalore, they offer MSc. But what I have seen that in other states in North India, they offer MA, Masters in Arts. But when I did my masters, so my degree was MSc. So some places in South India, they do offer MSc if you are doing clinical as your specialization. Okay. And next is after your master's in clinical psychology or any specialization that you've taken, you have to get your license from RCI. Now, RCI is the Rehabilitation Council of India. Now, you have to be licensed under them as a clinical psychologist. You have to do a 2-year course, MPhil, recognized by RCI to get your license, or you can do a rehabilitation course and get registered as a rehabilitation psychologist. All right. So during your MPhil, it's more of an experiential course, more of a practical course, and this is the regulating body in India until now, RCI, for psychologists, and that is only for clinical psychologists. If you are approaching your field as counseling psychologist, you don't need a license from RCI. Okay.
What does it mean, like clinical psychology and counseling psychologist?
Yes. Now that's what my next I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
Okay. So again, how I mentioned the difference between counseling and psychotherapy. So that's what counseling psychology again is. It deals with more milder form of issues, like any kind of not very clinical in nature. Like you would not be able to deal with a person who's facing clinical depression, but let's say there are relationship issues, there are issues with children, there are temper tantrums issue with their children. So these areas are covered more in counseling psychology. So here your clients can be of all ages, and focus is more on behavioral and emotional problems in children, family, education, work, career, right? And of course in old age population. So here it is more again in improving the productivity, and if it could be improving your performance in your career. Okay. So that actually is counseling psychology. Now, difference between counseling and clinical is, firstly, just one second. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't get scared. That's for the second session, because I understand when you see so many slides that people are going like, oh my God, so many more to go. All right. So now with the clinical and counseling, the difference is that in clinical psychology, you deal with more cases that are clinical in nature, that are diagnosed by a psychiatrist or by you, like depression, anxiety, OCD, psychotic conditions, schizophrenia, bipolar, right? All these chronic conditions. And it could be along with the medications that a person is taking medications, right? So you understand the basic difference, right? So it is more, clinical is more in dealing with psychopathologies, and counseling, there you deal with milder forms, like, a child is not able to focus in their studies. There are different issues between a child and a parent. There are milder issues, a couple is going through. So these become the problem in your the major differences between clinical and counseling. So and again, with the clinical psychology, there's a lot of more research happening. You can test a lot of hypotheses. You can test a lot of interventions that you have tried with our clients. In counseling, that doesn't really happen much. So research is more of an area of clinical psychology. So in counseling, psychologists usually work in universities, schools, and centers like this. And clinical psychologists, they work more in hospitals and people with special needs and these setups. All right. Are you clear with your difference, Anita? You're on mute.
So only when you are RCA approved, like you can do a clinical
Yes. Yes.
psychologist, and when you're not a RCA approved, you can be a counseling psychologist.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
in that case, would a counseling psychologist be able to perform these psychotherapies and all? Are they allowed to do psychotherapies?
You cannot do the intensive psychotherapy, like, but if you're trained in CBT, you can perform CBT. If you're trained in DBT, you can perform DBT, right? But you can but you cannot do it just as a counseling psychologist. If you just had your done your masters in counseling psychology, then you cannot say that I am applying CBT. You can use it in your method of counseling, but you cannot say that you are providing psychotherapy.
Okay.
So, ma'am, will this certification course help us change that narrative? I think I'm again not audible. I said, will
Yes.
this certification course help us change that narrative that maybe after learning psychotherapy from you, as you are,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
teaching
RCA
us about
approved.
it? Yeah,
Yeah.
not exactly the RCI certified. Obviously, we will not become the RCI certified
Yes.
people,
Yes.
but can we, apply this into our professional field?
Yes,
Yeah, that is
definitely.
what
After getting a training in psychotherapy, you can definitely apply psychotherapy, right? But you cannot
All right.
but you cannot, because you'll be learning the techniques that are utilized in different psychotherapies, right? But
Right.
you will still call yourself
Counseling
as counseling
psychologist itself.
psychologist,
Right.
and the registration, the license that you require, let's say if you have to do an IQ assessment, or if there is a case referred by the legal system for a medical legal purpose, you cannot take up these cases,
Right.
because for
Right.
that RCI registration is required.
Important.
But
Right.
let's say if you have, and another thing that I feel that would be a barrier is diagnosing. Suppose if an individual comes
Right.
to you, you cannot diagnose a person until you don't have an RCI registration, right? You cannot diagnose by saying that you are you
Understood.
cannot
We are
provide
not the right
a
person to
yes,
diagnose and do the
yes.
therapy. All right, ma'am. All right.
But what you can do, you can of course tell them that you have features of depression. That's a much more safer statement to use, rather
Right.
than saying you have clinical
You
depression.
have clinical depression. Right.
Okay. And then you can provide them counseling with a therapeutic context of whatever approach you are comfortable in, whether you're comfortable with behavior, psychoanalytic, CBT. Now this course will provide you an understanding of all the psychotherapies that are present. Okay. Now,
All
if
right.
you feel I am more comfortable in psychoanalytic, so you can do a more advanced course in psychoanalytic. All right.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next is your organization psychologist. also practice as an organizational psychologist for a couple of MNCs and companies. Okay. So I don't have a separate degree in organizational psychology, but through experience, I have learned the organizational dynamics. All right. So even if you are a counseling psychologist with a lot of working with a lot of companies and understanding the organizational behavior, you can practice as an organizational psychologist also. Okay. So here, what an organizational psychologist does is they understand the difficulties that an organization faces or an employee faces. Now, the difficulties could be due to the work culture. An employer could be facing issues in the recruitment process. They're not able to get the right candidate. There's a lot of attrition rate happening, right? So you understand these dynamics and provide a program to the organization. Usually they use the term as EAP, which is Employee Assistance Program. Okay. So now that is changed to Corporate Wellness Program. So there are a lot of programs that an organizational psychologist does to sometimes increase the ROI also, and also maintain a good culture in the organization also, right? There could be like a lot of toxic behaviors happening in an organization. So identifying that and implementing programs based on that. Okay, so now let us understand that where all a psychologist can work. So now a psychologist can work definitely in educational settings like schools, universities, right? Campuses, institutes, private practice. You can have your own private practice, have your own clinic. Then employee counseling in workplaces, hospitals and clinics, specialist service, for example, services directly, specifically for women or men or specially abled people. Like there are autism centers, there are learning disability centers. So you can work there. Of course, with the NGOs, you can get affiliated. With the government organizations, you can get affiliated. There are programs for the army, for the for the Navy forces, for training the medical officers of the government. In India, we have the National Mental Health Program, so you can get affiliated with the government projects directly there. In prisons and in correctional facilities, and of course in sports organizations also. So these are the basic workplaces that where we can look for opportunities. And this was what I would wanted to cover in the first session. I would like you to let me know if there are any questions or any kind of clarifications that you require in this first part.
So I will watch like the recording, and in case if I have something like
Yes,
I want to
sure.
ask or is not clear, then I'll let you know.
Sure, Zainab. Yes, you can
Yeah.
go through the recording and just let me know if
Mhm.
any doubt is there. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So now what I want you to do for this particular, after like we've completed this session, try to look back at the cases that you have seen in your life. It should not, I understand there won't be any professional case, but even if you've seen any professional case or where you have counseled anyone in a very layman term, try to evaluate that what were the reasons. Think of such 3 clients. I'm using the word clients. It could be like any 3 people you have counseled in your life. Somebody as a friend has come to you, somebody as just for support has come to you. Try to understand that what were these reasons, what were the reasons that they had come for. 3 reasons, like how we had discussed so many reasons that a person can come for psychotherapy or counseling. Try to understand, and we can discuss these reasons in the next session. Do you think you'll be able to do that?
Yes, we'll try to.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Try to tell me an answer which is more more broadly ranged, rather than telling me the specific problem that they came for anger management. Now that's a very specific problem. Now what would be the broader term? They came for uh, it will be like a symptom elevation, right? So there's some symptom. Now that could be anger, or maybe
from
they
any
came for.
age. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry. You just finish.
Yes, yes, please tell me.
It can be from any age, from child
Yes,
to
any
grown up.
any any in the entire lifespan, anyone. Okay, but I believe that the other person should be conversational. It shouldn't be like a 1-month-old baby, no. The person
Yeah.
won't
I
be
understand that. Yeah, I understand that.
conversational, right?
Yeah.
Because that will be then one-way counseling. You are telling that baby to keep quiet, that be
No,
one-way
no,
counseling.
no, not that way.
Okay, so
Yeah.
a two-way counseling process. And I'll just put out the reasons again, like, the reasons that we listed in this particular session. I don't know whether you'll have access to this presentation or not. I'll have a check with Pratishta. And the reasons that we listed, like a better understanding of themselves, self-actualization, try to see where does that fit in. The reason your client came to you, try to see where does that particular problem fit in. Yes.
All
Okay.
right, ma'am. All right.
Sure.
Okay. So we're almost reaching the end of the class. Anything else, any experience that you would like to discuss, or you would want me to change the method in some way for the next session?
I'm okay. For me, I feel it is very good, and I'm liking it, and seems to be perfect.
Okay.
So for me,
All right. Okay.
Even I don't have any issues with it, ma'am. It's quite understanding and elaborative, so I would want it to be that way.
All right. All right. Thank you, Rashi. Thank you, Anita.
yeah, you're welcome.
Pratishka, are you there with us?
Yes, ma'am. I'm okay with the process, how you're explaining.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you able to understand the activity that we have to do by the end of this class, Pratishka? I didn't
Yes,
hear.
ma'am. Yeah, I have already got the 3 people in my mind, and I am like
Okay.
conceptualizing now itself that what I'm supposed to go ahead with the symptoms and kind of thing.
Okay. So you are that kind of a student who finishes homework in classwork, huh?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right. Okay, guys. So we'll have the class again tomorrow, and we'll start with the second part. We'll start the class with this particular activity. And anything else, any confusion that you have in between, just connect with me. I think you're all there on the group, right? Okay. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. And you've